Okay, Zach. So I'm super excited today to talk about. I'm gonna let you do like technical stuff, but I do want to talk about the shift in the market, the window of opportunity that we have right now for home buyers. And I want you to help me explain some of the lending side that I just don't know how to exactly help people understand it. And then I'm gonna jump in and give my 2 cents of what I'm seeing on like client and realtor relationship stuff. So let's dive in and see what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, perfect. Well, first things first, the Fed cut interest rates today, right? And what the Fed cuts is the Fed's funds rate. And so it's essentially like an overnight lending portion. And so it doesn't directly tie into 30-year mortgage rates, but it does trickle down to it. And so we're always happy anytime we see a cut because that means mortgage rates are coming down, right? Yeah, and so with that specific one, it ended up being the third cut this year, which was good. We're so happy we got this cut. And then we're also looking forward to see when the next cut comes. This one specifically ended up being a hawkish cut. And so there's two different kind of cuts that they usually do. One's either dovish, which means, hey, we are happy to do this one, likely we're getting another one soon, or the hawkish cut, which is more of a, hey, we're cutting now, but we really don't know when the next one's going to be. We need more data, we need more, convincing to get us to do this again. And so that's what we got today was a hawkish cut. But it's helpful nonetheless. So
That's good. That's really good. And
next thing
then,
too, we get to say bye to Jerome Powell. This is exciting news, right?
so why
Uh,
is this exciting?
it's exciting because he's been hawkish for like the last 2 to 3 years. And so a lot of times when we've been getting these rate cuts, they'll cut and then he'll come into the Q&A that he does for an hour afterwards and he'll basically give us this doom and gloom lookout during his whole hour long thing and then the bond market which controls the mortgage interest rates essentially is like, well, we don't feel good about how this cut happened. Like, yeah, they cut, but like Jerome Powell wasn't happy about cutting and he gave us all this doom and gloom about, the future. And so, that just doesn't give all the bond traders the warm and fuzzies about it. So we're
Well,
hoping to
and
get somebody who's more dovish.
yeah, well, and I feel like this is like when an agent says to me, "Oh, your sellers are going to be so excited. We gave them a full price offer." And when I look at the full price offer, sure, it says list price, but then they're asking us for 15, 20,000 in closing costs. And I'm like, that is not full price. And so I feel like that's a good example of like what I live through because people are like, well, I gave you full price. And it was like, how can you say that? You did not give me, because my client's bottom line is less 20 grand. That is not full price. So, kind of that like, yeah, we're giving you this and then like taking it back at the same time. And clients really don't understand that a lot about like when they're asking a seller for closing costs. I was like, nobody likes it when you give them something and then take it away. It just doesn't set well. It's a great strategy for buyers, but sellers have a hard time with it sometimes, just because
Right.
they're like, wait, wait, wait. They're all excited when they see, oh, full price. And then they're just like, wait, they just are asking now for 20 back. So yeah, I think that's a good example of what we're talking about.
Right. And it's interesting too because like Trump and Jerome don't really get along. They've kind of had a falling out over the last couple of years. And so I mean, I think Trump's been definitely pressuring Jerome to keep cutting. So I think you know they're separate, but I think they gave the cut in some ways to be like, okay, here we're doing our part, but then in the Q&A when they mess it up, it's like, well, yeah, you did your part on this side, but it's really helpful if we can get the whole package of a rate cut, right? Not just
Yeah.
the half of it. So another thing too, as far as who gets to pick the next Fed chairman, that is President Trump. I imagine he's going to pick somebody who's going to be very much a yes man. That way he doesn't have too much conflict with where he's wanting to take the economy. And so as they look at this, these are the top three candidates that are likely going to get picked. We got Kevin Hassett, Chris Waller, and Kevin Warsh. And so as far as the betting odds go, everybody thinks that it's going to be Kevin Hassett. And so that's likely, I think, who our shoo-in is going to be. And Trump's kind of showing us that he's likely going to release this information in the next 30 to 45 days, which in some aspects will be helpful because once he releases this information, all the attention's going to go away from Jerome Powell, and they're going to say, well, whoever the new Fed chairman is that we're going to have, we're going to actually pay more attention to him because that's who's going to be steering this ship in the years to come.
And
So
how does all this shifting benefit a Utah buyer?
that's a great question. So as far as the shifting, it likely just means we're going to see hopefully more rate cuts and also just rates coming down more steadily. I mean, over the last like 2, 3 years, it's kind of been a roller coaster, right? We're in the sevens, we come down a little bit, and then we go back up. And so we're hoping that getting a new Fed chairman could potentially be helpful with just more steadiness and, just coming down more gradually.
Oh, maybe they
So.
just won't take it back, right?
Right, they're not gonna mess up the Q&A is the biggest thing, right? When they actually do a
Yeah.
Fed cut, they're then going to talk about all the positives about it rather than pointing out, the negatives. So,
Nice, nice. So, I know that I was kind of being like, well, okay, so what does this mean, and how does this help a Utah buyer, and what can I tell my clients, right? So, one thing that I think is really important is that assets are going to increase, which include home values. So that's stocks, that's businesses, but assets are going to start to increase again. In the real estate market, like the housing prices have been like they kind of went steady and they'll dip, they'll come up a little bit, but it's kind of like that up and down. But they've been pretty steady over the last couple of years because I've had a couple clients this year reach out and say, hey, Janet, like I kind of want to make a move. And I say, you kind of need to wait one more year because Utah home prices have been pretty steady. Like, even though they bought it 2 years ago, they're getting slight equity in their home, but not enough to really justify moving and then taking their equity and having something significant to go with them. So
right.
I think that is very, very positive. Obviously, we don't want it to get out of control. We don't want it to spike, but it will be nice to see those increases to help people make the moves that they want to make. Also, so you were explaining to me what quantitative easing means, but why don't you go ahead and explain that one more time?
Yeah, so the Fed officially stopped doing quantitative tightening as of December 1st. And that's a good thing. That's going to help interest rates in no different ways. But quantitative easing, I think we're likely going to see it either 2026, maybe 2027, but I think it'll likely be this coming year in 2026. Um, and it's basically where they're just going to put more liquidity into the markets and,
They're going to
just
buy money. No, they're going to print
they're
money.
going to
That's what
print
you told
money.
me.
And
Yeah.
so that
And
can
that's good because
potentially,
why? Why is it good? Because they're printing money?
well, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
It's a pro if you're holding assets, right? Because your asset values go up. It's a con if you're not, because then you're looking at it saying, well, if I'm not holding assets, like my dollars that I'm potentially holding are devaluing because of the
Gotcha.
printing that they're doing. And so really, for me, this is a really good conversation to have with professionals, right? Like, how are you managing your risk and also just managing funds? Because people might think, well, hey, I don't want to have risk. I'm just going to keep my money in this place or that place. But there is something really healthy about owning a home, having a little bit of debt on that home, because like over years and years and years, that debt does get cheaper due to quantitative easing and just different things like that. And so anytime, I see that specific word, it like quantitative easing, I think, okay, like it's important to hold assets during these periods of time. It's important just to be managing, funds correctly so that, you're beating it in a way.
So you're telling me the rich are going to get richer. That's
Yep.
what
And
you're
that's what we're going to
saying.
see this coming
Anyone
year.
who has something is going to get increase.
And then I also think about the um, appreciation that we're going to see. I think it's likely going to be backloaded on this coming year. I'm hearing figures anywhere from like 2 to 6% is what we could see on, appreciation depending on the state. But I think a lot of that appreciation probably won't come the first quarter or maybe not even the second. But I think that third and fourth quarter, from what I'm seeing, is likely going to be where that a good chunk of that appreciation come from. So it makes me think as a buyer, it's like, man, if I want to get a home, let's get into it the first quarter rather than waiting because like it could be a slippery slope as far as how quickly things heat up in the housing market and like where it's kind of headed. So as far as like what I'm seeing is like we're seeing the window close potentially on low competition. What are you seeing right now, Janet, on competition?
So what's really nice is I've done some great negotiations for my clients. Like one example that we just signed on the bottom line today, and they'll be in there before Christmas, but
Wow.
because like we started like typically if you're right at the end of October, like right around Halloween, all the way until, February, basically it's that pocket of time when people in Utah, there's snow, it's cold, and a lot of people don't want to move during that time in the holidays. People have plans, so they put things on hold. But this client, like we were looking at new construction, and we ended up like they had already done a price cut, and then we still were able to negotiate 100,000 off of this price. That the builder really wanted to turn this home because it was finished, it was ready. They didn't want to sit on it. They especially didn't want to carry it into next year. So phenomenal opportunity. And that's going to continue, in my opinion, like in what I'm seeing as I'm showing my buyers homes and as I'm negotiating in favor of my sellers, is that there's more opportunity to still push that negotiation until we get into probably February. But I think we will have, because of all the rate cuts and because of everything that we're seeing, I think we're going to have a typical spring, which we haven't had in a long time. But I think what's going to happen is that we're going to see more inventory, more competition. Prices are going to start heating up. Negotiations. I mean, if we're back into multiple offers, like that's going to change things because right now, I love that we can kind of just casually, like, my client can call on Monday and then we can be like, so should we go out Saturday? Sure, let's go out Saturday. You have some time to go see houses. You don't have pressure to like, now that you've seen it, what do you think? We either need to make an offer or move on. So I don't know how severe it's going to get, but I do know that it's going to be different than it is right now. It's a huge window of opportunity right now.
Right. Well, it's funny because anytime I look at it, it's like anytime we're the only buyer, man, we get a lot of money in closing costs. But as soon as there's even just one other person that enters that competition, it's like, well, there goes 5 to 10 grand in negotiating because of this other buy, and so
Yeah,
it's
and by
always
no
interesting to
by no
see.
means do I think the Utah housing market is going to heat up to the point where people are paying crazy over, list price and stuff like that. But it is
Right.
going to be faster. Like you are going to have to be a little bit more on top of things. You're going to have to be a little bit quicker to make decisions, and the prices are going to start to go up. There's going to be some equity gain for sure.
Perfect.
So, yeah. Well, I am just so excited we had a chance to talk today. I always learn so much from you. You know so much about the lending. So, if anyone is listening and is curious, has been fence sitting, thinking, I want to make a move, but I don't really know if it's time or not, please reach out to us. Zach and I can help you through the ins and outs, answer all your questions, and get you where you want to be. So, I appreciate you. Thanks,
Awesome. Thanks,
Zach.
Janet.